By the way, I hear you have a bone to pick with me and my Hall of Fame standards.
But first of all, before we even get there, let's back up. I think you've done just fine without the Emmys there, Cowherd, okay? I think it's working out just fine for you. All right, let's go right to the Hall of Fame. This is one of the reasons I love the show so much, because of the clarity. Perhaps wrong, but never in doubt. That's Cowherd. So here he's going to walk around with the card and the wallet, a la Bob Costas with Mickey Mantle and everything else. And Joy immediately cuts you down to the proper size. So you're going to say then that Gale Sayers and or Sandy Koufax or any of the other folks that Joy talked about who are not just one story, I get it, but can you tell the story of the sport beyond this 2-contract time limit that you've created? Can you tell the story of the sport appropriately, fully, without Gale Sayers and without Sandy Koufax?
Listen,
as usual, Cowherd bold, but then is kept in check by Joy.
Well, Joy keeps me in check for a lot of things. I did acknowledge that Sayers is the one that I get crushed on.
And that baseball is going to be different than the football one.
Yeah, but if, Gale Sayers, he's the best play. He was the best running back, 5 years, 5 Pro Bowls, injury, which, by the way, by today's medical standards, maybe he would have played longer. He couldn't at the time. So listen, even great policy in Washington, D.C. has a hole in it. I got a little hole in my argument. All right.
Okay, we'll give you that.
Let's talk about this. Were you surprised that Brady's performance, Chris Godwin didn't play great, Gronk was a non-factor, Evans was shut down? If I told you before the game they had 7 catches, you would have thought, they got blown out again. Were you kind of surprised by Brady's success?
So 2 things, Colin. When Brady went up and did the interview with Erin Andrews right after the game, the very first thing and I thought Erin asked him a great question. She didn't start with his performance or what it meant. She started with their defense and all that they created to shorten the field and give Brady an opportunity to reverse what had been 2 subpar performances against the Saints. And he quickly credited the defense and essentially said, yeah, that's why we're here. Did he execute properly? Yes, he did. But the defense really was the headline. And of course, Brady making his way, coming to the other conference, teaming with Arians, going down to Tampa Bay, and now getting back to a conference championship game it's incredible. In a way, right? It's the matchup we all want to see, the greatest of all time, perhaps against the greatest of his generation. I know you had said, we're just licking our chops. We can't wait for Sunday to get here.
Now, do you ask him about the weather in Lambeau? Because he's used to it. So does Gronk, but almost nobody else on that roster.
He's more than familiar with all the practices that he's had. He's had great snow games, the epic tuck rule game, et cetera.
Yeah.
And he really said it's much, much more, Colin, and I don't think this will surprise you, about the wind or about rain or moisture or wet conditions than it is about the cold, unless it's truly bitter, meaning 25 or 20 or 15 or below. Now, with that in mind, mid-20s forecast for the high Sunday, a 60% chance of snow at Lambeau, and we wouldn't want it any other way.
That's right.
Could there be anything greater than a conference championship game, perhaps with that kind of machinery coming across and blowing the snow so we can see the lines, et cetera, evoking the tuck rule game, all of that? It is a dream scenario if it works out that way and it's a close game heading into the fourth quarter.
The players you talk to, Green Bay, Tampa, the difference between Super Bowl and conference championship. Conference championships have a little bit of a Super Bowl feel to me. These are the 2 games the country's watching, 35 million. You talk to players about that.
I think, Colin, that this is a sneaky answer here. A number of players acknowledge that they felt as much or more pressure in a conference championship game because you're this close. It's that tantalizing to be 1 game away from making it to the Super Bowl, obviously the ultimate stage in the sport. And to win this game, as Tom Brady said, this has proven to be the most difficult game to win.
Yeah.
And probably he's in his 14th version of this, which is mind-blowing, more than twice as much as the next person on the list, which is Montana at 7. But the pressure connected to try to take that next step, cross the threshold into the Super Bowl, is a real big factor in these games, and the two games we'll see Sunday.
Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, I thought, had the best year. Maybe Allen Stephon Diggs second, but in terms of quarterback, wide receiver connection, you have any sense of why it's so special? I mean, it's like they've been playing together for 15 years. They have a real sense of each other.
Even though they haven't been, right? And it didn't necessarily start with them like two peas in a pod or with the telepathy that they've built here pretty quickly. And it exceeds the statistical measurements or the simple metrics on a page. It comes down to, Colin, the very best you like to see manifest between two teammates, and that's wordless communication. It's done even without language. It can be done in a subtle hand gesture, in a look across the line, in a single expression that suggests this is what the defense is giving us. I know what the plan was, but you and I have our own plan because we have our own communication built on trust, manifestation, execution, and that has really, really borne fruit. It is a premier connection in the sport. And if Tampa can't control it, it's going to be a long day.
What'd you make of the interaction between Brees and Brady Sunday? I thought it was pretty. I saw virally. It got millions of retweets. I thought it was pretty cool.
I did, in a way. I thought it was a bookend to the week, right? The week it started with the great social post there by Brady's team with the History Channel. They had texted each other at the start of the week. They've known each other going all the way back to '99 when they faced each other in the Big Ten with Michigan against Purdue. But that scene of Brady coming out with Brees and his wife tossing passes to Brees' children, I think tells you all you need to know about the enduring connection between these two, who can understand each other, Colin, in a way that so few others can, about the commitment to endure and prevail and persist through doubt and injury and change. And that's what each has done. In this case, the matchup itself perhaps didn't live up to the storyline, but that was a beautiful postscript, that scene.
Finally, AB, Antonio Brown, certainly in the last 6 weeks became a very interesting kind of a problem for opponents and an interesting kind of element added to Tom Brady's arsenal. What's the latest on his injury?
I think that's going to be a bit of a mystery here. He's progressing, at least that was the characterization that we heard from the Bucs. But we're going to have to see. They were caught off guard, and I think AB was as well, by being limited in the game. There weren't any suggestions, pardon me, Colin, that he would be heading into the Saints game, but clearly he was limited as he continues to work through practice this week. He is a very key weapon for Brady, as you suggested, later in the season, in particular in the last 6 weeks. The connection between the two was only increasing and peaking at the right time. He's a really key weapon for Brady, and we'll have to see, particularly when they've been putting him in the slot, Colin. Yeah. And we'll have to see how much he's able to go and how explosive he can be. By the way, one other quick thought here about the cold. Brady suggested in the cold, quarterbacks have an advantage. I thought this was fascinating because you can throw the ball just as fast, you can process just as fast mentally, but everyone else, when the temperatures get really cold, slows down a bit. So that shifts to quarterback advantage. I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, also, by the way, a receiver knows where he's going and the DB doesn't, so your footing can be huge. All right, he's Tom Rinaldi. We just couldn't, as a company, be happier. And, buddy, when you get out here to California and when they allow us to have a glass of wine at a restaurant, it's on me. I don't know when that's going to be in California, but it's great seeing you, and welcome to the team.
So appreciate you having me so much, Colin. Great to see you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.